Yano and his sons look through the floor of their property in the historic Italian city of Lex Luciano faggy for a broken pipe. On the other hand, as the members of the family remove shovels full of debris, they discover something unexpected: a false floor, and the men and the rest of the city will be astonished by what lies beneath this structural layer. When an Italian man went to fix his toilet, he found an old underground structure. Italy is home to an incredible collection of ancient ruins because the country has been inhabited for approximately 40,000 years. For instance, Rome was founded in 753 BC, and a visit to the Eternal City would not be complete without seeing its numerous ancient ruins, which are evidence that the civilization ever existed. The Colossian architectural achievement, which was completed in AD, may be the most well-known Roman artifact. The circular amphitheater hosted audiences of up to 80,000 people at a time in bygone days. In addition, inside, these spectators were able to witness anything from gladiator fights and public executions to battles in which the venue was, yes, occasionally flooded. The Forum, which was once the center of daily life in Rome, can be found close to the Colossians. The people of the time could hear public speeches, watch criminal trials, and learn about election results here. Even though many of the monuments and buildings on this site have fallen down over the past 2,000 years, millions of tourists still flock to see them and try to imagine how life was there 200 years ago. However, these types of architectural relics aren't just found in Rome. There are also examples in other Italian cities. Lonely Planet, for instance, ranked Pompeii's ruins as one of the world's most engaging archaeological experiences. This is due to the fact that the same volcanic ash that destroyed the ancient city in 79 AD preserved the entire cityscape. Until 1594, Pompeii remained hidden beneath ash and earth. When Domenica Fontana, an architect, was trying to dig a canal in the area, you see, Fontana accidentally discovered the city's ruins while doing so, and it's amazing that excavators eventually discovered the molds of some of his former residents in Pompeii. These ancient victims of disaster had been buried by volcanic ash between 13 and 20 feet below ground, leaving behind forms of their bodies that persisted after they died. Later, archaeologists decided to use plaster to fill those molds. A bordello, stores, amphitheaters, homes, and other structures that were destroyed in the eruption, such as cafes, amphitheaters, churches, and others, are also preserved in the ash. Even graffiti written in informal vulgar Latin, a language that is largely forgotten and distinct from that used by classical authors, can be found. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has designated Pompeii as a World Heritage Site due to its historical and cultural significance. Countrywide, as kept in 2018, more than any other nation in the world, Italy has 54 locations that have been given this title. In addition, Italy has a long list of places it thinks should be included on the list of World Heritage Sites. Future designations to be considered by UNESCO will normally come from this program, and one such potential incorporation is Salento, a district inside the impact point of this broadly boot-molded country. Salento's inclusion on the list of nominees is largely attributable to the magnificent Baroque architecture in the city of Lex. The most ancient tribe of humans who lived in the Salento region long before Jesus was born founded what would eventually become Lex. As a result, the city today has more than 2,000 years of history within its boundaries. Instead, the now sexagenarian had purchased a building on the city's Via Esquina do Grande with a particular vision in mind. He wanted to turn the lower level of the property into a restaurant. And in keeping with this plan, he, along with his wife, Anna Maria Seno, and then 12-year-old son David, was to live in the building's upper levels. Faggiato also has two other sons who had already flown the nest. The eldest, Marco, had moved to Rome to study film. Meanwhile, his middle son Andrea had moved out to go to college when it came time to turn the ground floor of his building into a restaurant. Though the father asked both Marco and Andrea to come home, The project was to be more than just an aesthetic renovation, though. It seems that faggy Yano had, discovered a problem with his newly acquired property. Yes, although the building appeared to have been updated with brand new central heating and featured crisp white paint on its walls, the father of three had found that the toilet didn't work. Now, of course, the last thing that any restaurateur wants is backed up, though it's making its way into their eatery. So faggy Yano got to work. He enlisted his son's help to dig a trench to try to find the pipe and figure out the problem. The father also assumed that the project would take them a very short period to complete. That's Faggy told the New York Times in 2015. I said, "Come, I need your help, and it will only be a week." Happily, his sons heeded the call too, and the four of them began to dig for the faulty pipe. Soon, however, they uncovered something that they surely would never have expected: the false floor. At this point, Faggy knew for certain that the project, as he had promised, it wasn't to be the day that his new property would take far longer than 7 days. As a result, he and his sons worked to get rid of the false floor. However, they also made it a point to conceal what they were doing from Anna Maria Faggy, whose wife and mother he had uncovered beneath the fake floorboards, and how he had discovered it. Removing this layer from the way, he and his sons had discovered a medieval-era stone-covered level on another level. In addition, this was only the beginning of the remarkable historical finds that they would ultimately discover beneath their family home. It's amazing to think that the medieval floor gave way to a tomb built by sapiens, a civilization that existed long before Jesus was born. Faggy and his sons also found a grain storage chamber used by the ancient Romans. They then discovered the convent's basement, a room where nuns used to prepare bodies for burial, adding even more intrigue. In the meantime, Faggy also came up with a novel strategy for discovering new parts of the ruins beneath his house. He used a novel strategy in which he would sometimes tie a line around David, his 12-year-old son, and then lower the teen into newly exposed spaces to see what was there. They tried to tell David not to tell his mother Faggy on gracious arrangement of the young fellow, who without a doubt did spill reality to his mother. Instead, Anna Maria discovered the truth on her own after noticing an increase in the amount of household laundry that needed to be done. "Every day, we had these filthy clothes. I didn't comprehend what was happening," she uncovered. But it turned out that Anna Maria wasn't the only one who started to wonder what was going on with Faggy and his sons. The quartet had also started putting the debris from their impromptu archaeological dig in the back of a car so that it could be taken away. The authorities' go-ahead came with one caveat, though. To continue, the father would have to perform his work under the supervision of Heritage. If officials and Yeti agreed to get back to the task and continued here treasures from civilizations past, as well as finding the runes already mentioned, Faggy went on to uncover everything from ancient bases and medieval-era relics to religious bottles used by the Romans and long-concealed frescoes. And the discoveries that had lain hidden within the underground chambers came from different eras of Lexus's past. Heritage official Giovanni Greco was among those who were on hand to help supervise the dig, and talking to the New York Times, he noted that the Faggy house has layers that are representative of almost all of the city's history. Lex officials thus assumed that there would be an important discovery during the excavation, and so they sent along an archaeologist to oversee the work that would be Faggy and his sons who did all the labor. Mind you, and they paid for the entire thing to boot. However, they also soon found themselves immersed in the process. The head of the family, for one, did a wealth of research to better understand the year as represented in the ruins beneath his home. Faggy in fact, felt enraptured by his unexpected archaeological dig, and yet his older sons, on the other hand, found that the project acted as a disruption to the lives that they had left for what was supposed to be only a week. Andrea chuckled as he told the New York Times, "We were kind of forced to do it. I was going to university, but then I would go home and excavate." Marco came home as well. Eventually, though, even Faggy grew tired of the work before him. After all, he had only started the project to fix a broken plumbing system. Naturally, he still desired to open his restaurant. I continued to dig for my pipe. He said that after years of hard work, we would discover new artifacts every day. Andre moved to London, and younger arrogant Arnos eventually left the project. What's more, fortunately, their dad had the remainder of his property to assist with procuring him a pay while he exhumed. Yes, he rented the upstairs floor and made money from other properties he owns that, while admittedly shaky, lost steam with the project to the point where I couldn't take it anymore here revealed. I bought cinder blocks so I could pretend it never happened and cover it up. I wouldn't want it on anyone. However, city officials persuaded him to continue digging, and his architect advised him that he would be better off without the sludge beneath the restaurant's bathroom at the time. Interestingly, however, Faggy Otto would ultimately decide to postpone his restaurant venture forever. Instead, the building was turned into a museum called Yano, an independent archive that showed the finds of the patriarchs that were approved by the city government. Today, it is still Lex's top-rated museum that was chosen by Lonely Planet. Throughout the museum, the rooms that Faggy Yano and his sons dug up are open to visitors as they descend a winding spiral staircase. David, who was 12 at the time, was the last person to be roped down into the underground space. Instead, the building's many layers and historical details are clearly visible to visitors thanks to bright lights and glass flooring sections. The museum's dos intros of Hannah Romano can also be found inside the archive. It appears that they share an intriguing connection with Faggy Yano. You see, Romanos's husband, a novice at studying caves, had previously observed some troubling holes in the ground while visiting the coast close to Lex. In particular, he had noticed the holes while nature was calling. Amazingly, the holes led Romano's husband and other speleologists to the Service Grotto. Before he discovered the natural wonder in 1970, this incredible cave contained pictographs from the Neolithic era, which occurred approximately 12,000 years ago at the end of the Stone Age. None of it was even known to exist. Thoughtfully, this Neolithic discovery certainly resembles Faggy Anjo's unintentional discovery of the ruins beneath his house. The stories of Romano and the Patriarch of Lex are linked by something else. He said that sewage systems brought us together. Also, on that note, he did ultimately find the line that had begun by any means to. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.